All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with someone who is new to the show, but not really new to the local music scene. I mean, I think that this is maybe a long time coming in that I've talked to a lot of other artists on the House of Wonders label, and today I have I guess the first artist on the label who was responsible for the first release that that label ever did. And I think that the best way to start this off is if you want to just introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist, and then I know you have a lot of new things happening that we can get into after that.
Yeah, sure. I'm Amos from Amos the Kid, and I make indie rock music from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Cool. That's a very succinct way of putting it. And first of all, I mean, you just introduced yourself as Amos from Amos the Kid. So as Amos the Kid, I always just assumed that was sort of your stage name, but is that the name of the group?
It started out as just me because I wasn't sure if it was going to be a band or what. It was kind of a collaboration of my songs and then a bunch of people playing on them. Now I think the direction, because we've had mostly the same band members for a really long time now. Um, and I feel like now we've gone more in the direction of feeling like a band. So
Okay.
I guess I say like Amos from Amos the Kid, or as a part of Amos the Kid. But um, I'm sure lots of people would associate me as Amos the Kid.
Right. So yeah, you are Amos the Kid in Amos the Kid, I guess.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah, yeah. But the reason we're talking now is because you have a new album that's coming out later this week from when we're recording it, and you have a couple EPs that came out before this, and it seems like sort of with each release, you're getting more notoriety and more attention and more great reviews and everything. So uh, this is, I think, the first release the House of Wonders is done on vinyl too, right? Like this is a big step up, I guess, from your tape releases in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, first LP for House of Wonders, and then also obviously my first LP. Yeah, we did two little cassette tapes before this, EPs. Um over kind of, I guess we started working on them in 2019, started releasing in 2020. Um yeah, so it feels like, I guess, a big step for both me and the label.
Totally, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, like, am I right in saying that this is kind of this project has been getting more attention, sort of progressively? I mean, it seems like at first I heard the name, and then when the first tape came out, a lot of people were kind of gushing over it, and the second one came out, and then again, same thing. Started seeing stuff in Exclaim and things like that, and then now you got this LP happening. Has it felt like a pretty quick I guess climb for you as far as just getting recognition and getting people knowing who you are and knowing your music and knowing your sound?
I think yeah, in some ways. It felt like it was going really quick at the beginning, and then, because we put out the Mountain View EP, and then we had a bunch of shows and like festivals and everything
Yeah,
that were interested in having us play, and then COVID happened, and I had like, I don't know, something like six different shows, maybe more, probably, I guess more, over a couple years canceled. So then it felt like things really plummeted. So I part of me was like, oh, maybe this is like, maybe that was it. But then over this year, things have felt like really, like they've really taken off. At least in comparison to anything I've done before.
well,
Um,
and it's such a short time that you've been doing this in terms of actually releasing music, right?
yeah, like Amos the Kid, like I said, 2020. So, 3 years of releasing music isn't very long
No, it's
for
not,
a lot of
especially
bands.
with a big pandemic in the middle of it. It just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
erases that whole period of playing shows and stuff. Yeah.
And I did music before, for, since I was a teenager. But none of that, that was like coffee houses and like little performances and whatever, and releasing my stuff on SoundCloud or
Yeah.
YouTube or whatever. So this, yeah, all things considered, I think the last 3 years, and especially this last year, have surprised me quite a bit. Because I mean, I like when I first started releasing this Amos the Kid stuff, I had no idea that uh people would even dig it at all. So yeah.
What do you think it is that's working with people? I mean, like I actually have a sub question to that too. But I mean, first of all, what do you think is grabbing people about these songs? Why are they successful? Why is it working out? I mean, from your perspective, I don't know if you can answer that, but
I don't know. I feel like it's different. Um, in the beginning, in the beginning of this interview, I called it indie rock because that would be the catch-all, but I don't think it sounds like a lot of uh
No.
indie rock that's coming out. Which is so funny because it's so funny to see people try to pick a genre for us, like in interviews and stuff, or in like write-ups. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it because it's different, people are kind of responding well to that. Um, I focus really heavily on trying to write good lyrics, um, and stuff that both kind of brings across the nostalgia
Yeah.
that I'm trying to write about, but then also um, kind of yeah, I don't know, trying to write like good poetry and stuff. So I don't know, maybe people are interested in that part of it,
Well, that was
but
kind
yeah.
of, you kind of touched on what my secondary question is what you called it as a genre. I mean, I've definitely seen and heard in your music too. There's a lot more than just indie rock or indie pop or any of those kind of indie genres. I mean, you have a very strong country influences in certain parts. Certain songs for sure are like out and out country is right there. There's folk stuff.
Mhm.
There's singer songwriter stuff. There's seems to be a lot of different things floating around in there. Do you sort of have? Is there kind of a point that you refer to as far as this is the kind of stuff that you listen to that sort of inspired this? Is there like an era or a sound or something like that you always point
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm always caught between the kind of old school outlaw country and then the kind of 90s shit, like, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to swear on
Say what you
here.
want.
uh the 90s stuff, like the Dinosaur Juniors of the world,
Sure.
or Pavement or Silver Jews. Like I'm floating between that and then just like, yeah, some um yeah, pretty heavily into the country genre. And I guess that uh, hopefully I'm not like, genre bending too much in a way that people would find negative, but it definitely pulls me in a lot of directions. And I do listen to all that like indie rock shit that
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of young people are listening to right now too. Um, I just don't really play it, I guess.
Well, I think that you're doing this in an era where being genre bending is very accepted. I mean, people are exposed to so much stuff now, and I being like an old man yelling at clouds, talk about this all the time on this show. Is that like people now have access, kids now, the young people now have access to all music from all eras, just like at the click of a button, right? So it's not. It
Mhm.
seems like those hard and fast barriers that there used to be even 20 years ago as far as what genre you play, everything is sort of blurred because there's no real like popular music is everything, right? It's
Mhm.
everything from anywhere and any country, anytime, any genre is all kind of melded together. So I think as someone doing a melange of genres, you're coming up at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I mean, in this like TikTok era, young people especially are finding, oldies that are just like resurfacing because they will pop off on TikTok or on Instagram or whatever. And
Absolutely.
I feel like it's funny, like even this year I met a lot of younger people that were like, yeah, I really got into John Prine recently. And I'm like, that's so funny because it's like, you know,
He just
that's what
died.
well, he just died, but it's yeah, he just died and like um it's not that I personally was like ahead of the curve on that, but like my mom was like playing that in the house like crazy, like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that I guess the afterlife for these artists is now on TikTok, and that's the way people are discovering them and also getting into said genres.
Yeah. So okay. Well, I think you're right too. I mean, I have kids. My oldest one's a teenager, and this has happened where music that I listened to when I was her age has she's been playing it and saying, "How do you know this band?" And it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I heard it on TikTok." Right? It's just totally a thing. So given that that's sort of how music is discovered, how does that affect you as an artist wanting to get your music out there? I mean, you have this record coming out. You obviously want as many people to hear it as possible. Knowing
Hmm.
that sort of the traditional way of making music available to the public, it still exists, but it's things are changing, right? Does that
Yeah.
affect your sort of strategy for putting your stuff out there and how you're going to do it and who you want to hear it?
Yeah. I mean, the whole TikTok world sort of feels impossible. Like I don't know. I don't know how to get people to use your songs or sounds on there, but I've definitely been learning, like even like Spotify and like Apple Music and stuff has changed a lot even from like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Like getting playlisted doesn't mean as much anymore. Getting those editorial playlists doesn't mean as much anymore. Um, so the landscape has changed in that way. So and it's not that I was like heavily involved before, so I'm a lot of it I'm learning for the first time.
yeah,
But um, yeah, I feel like part of me really like digs the sort of, Daniel Romano, like he is playing across the country, and he's releasing his music, the majority of it on Bandcamp and then deleting it. But
oh wow,
basically he's
so
just,
it's like limited edition kind of time frame.
yeah, but he's doing like that old school, like kind of what the Tragically Hip did, where he's just playing every town across the country, and the fans that he's gaining are so organic because they literally
Yeah,
saw him live. They didn't discover him on TikTok. And part of me is kind of caught between, not that we've toured yet, but part of me is caught between this, like, do I want to like put a ton of my energy into social media for the sort of passive listener, or do I want to like be just a real rock band that like, you know, goes across the country and plays barns and
yeah.
um so
Well, and
I
there's
guess
something to be
I'm
said for that
figuring that
too. I
out.
mean, that's like, I mean, there's lots of people, especially with country too. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of country artists on here who they play the city sometimes, but their real bread and butter is every small community in the
Hmm.
province over and over again, and then they get word of mouth fans and they sell
Hmm.
physical copies of their CDs because that's what the audience out there wants, and it's definitely a thing. Like I worked for when I was about 19, I worked for a newspaper in Verdun, Manitoba, and
Hmm.
I lived there, and I was by myself. I was young, and whenever any band would come through, regardless of what kind of music they were, I would go see them because I was in Verdun and didn't know anyone. There's nothing else to do, and like there's definitely like something to be said for that kind of. There's still bands I listen to that I heard, you know, this is like 20 something years ago now
Yeah.
when I was a teenager in Verdun writing for the paper. So yeah, there's something to it.
Well, it is funny. It reminds me of, I'm from Boissevain, Manitoba,
Okay, yeah,
and CBC would do these like house concert series there. So when I was a teenager, I saw Alexa Dirks, like Begonia play in Shikami, or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then the new Lightweights, I think maybe. But
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
they came to my town a couple times. I saw them every time they came, and then randomly later on in life, Alexa Dirks is one of my good friends.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because yeah, there's like a certain loyalty you get to people's music by having them come to you in uh in your town or your spot.
Yeah, you have that
So,
personal experience of like, oh, I saw this show, and then when and you connect it to emotions and feelings and nostalgia and everything. Whereas just clicking on a bunch of digital stuff is maybe not going to give you the same vibe.
hmm uh, feel like guys who do that really well from Winnipeg are like Micah Ehrenberg and like Richard
For sure,
Inman. They
for
play
sure.
like, they'll just play every small town. It doesn't matter. Uh, and people are just, the rural people are so loyal to them. So
Yeah, because
I,
they made the effort, right? They made the effort to come out to whatever the community is and play
mhm.
for 15 people, but those 15 people are now diehard fans.
Yeah. So I'd love to get there, and I'd love to be able to float both if I can,
For
and
sure.
hopefully not get burnt out from, all this social media shit.
So for people who by the time the good thing about this is being a podcast, someone could hear it the day it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now, and by then obviously your record will be out. You might be doing more touring, you might have new music out, who knows? But for people who haven't heard this one yet, how would you say it differs? Like, how has it changed sonically from the past couple of releases? What should people expect if they're familiar with the two EPs and kind of have an idea of what your sound is?
Hmm.
What's changed on this one?
I mean, the joke within the band is that Amos learned how to play on beat. Uh, but yeah, I think I mean, it's all around like a lot tighter. The writing process, the recording. I mean, like my first EP was one of the first. Well, yeah, I guess it was the first thing that House of Wonders recorded,
Yeah, yeah,
and um, I think everyone involved has just grown together into the sound we're in now. Um, I think it's louder and it's bigger, and we take a lot more risks. Um, we were able to incorporate like a lot more things that I wanted early on, but just we just couldn't make happen for the sake of time and everything else. Um, like for example, in the new record, we have a lot of banjo
Cool.
and different sounds that we just never would have had time to record before. Um, so yeah, I guess it's bigger, it's more catchy. Um, yeah, I learned how to structure songs a lot better this time around.
That helps,
So
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So with all of that though, with all the extra instruments you're putting on and the band's tighter and all these things, you mentioned kind of right off the beginning here about the focus on lyrics and the focus on songwriting.
Hmm.
Do these songs do they work in a stripped down format as well? Like, are you able to play these songs whether it's just solo or just with a smaller version of the group, without a bunch of extra instruments and extra sort of bells and whistles? Like, do they work? Do you think as stripped down kind of like you said, the poetry, right?
Hmm. Yeah, like I mean, all of them start in the writing process. They all start usually with my guitar and singing.
Sure.
So they're built up from that. But I would say some of them I don't know. I don't know yet. Haven't tried yet. Um, some of them are older songs that I wrote in a time where I was playing by myself a lot more.
Okay.
So I've definitely performed them live. Uh, but yeah, I don't have plans of playing this album solo yet. We'll see. It's just I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun playing with people and the bigger sound. And
Yeah.
and I did that solo thing. Like I played before as like the Show Lake Kid is what I called myself.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I think I remember hearing that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I probably did like 8 or 9 years of solo playing.
Okay.
Uh,
So you've had enough of that by now.
I've had enough of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Played to a lot of empty rooms.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. They probably will work solo. Just gotta workshop them, I guess.
Yeah.
It
Cool.
just we've been jamming on them for so long as a band. It's hard to kind of strip them back in my head, but we'll see.
With the record out, I mean, by the time people hear this, it'll probably be out. I mean, depending when someone listens, what is sort of the next step for you now? I'm assuming you want to get out there and play more shows to sort of promote it and let people hear the songs from this record.
Yeah. Well, we're going on tour on May 16th. We're doing a little tour to Vancouver and back.
Cool.
Um, so that for me personally, I guess I'm probably the only person in the band, maybe not, I'm not sure, who hasn't toured. So that's a pretty big deal for me.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's kind of funny because like the two benchmarks that I always wanted as a young musician or whatever was to go on a tour and to put out an LP. And this month I'm doing both of those things. So it's kind of hard. I guess I got to find new goals, but yeah, no, I would like to definitely play more shows. We haven't really looked around at festivals a whole lot. Um, but yeah, I think I want to take a little rest after the album comes out and then yeah, start playing it. So,
Cool. Cool. For we're in the era, like I said, where you can get everything sort of at the click of a button. You're putting out physical media. I know that's kind of what the label does as well. And I, as an old person, as someone who still listens exclusively almost to physical tapes and CDs and records, I'm always happy to hear when people are doing this and when there's still like, I mean, because there are definitely lots of artists out there who are just skipping that entirely and just
mhm.
going strictly to streaming. Has that always been important to you to have a physical release of your stuff?
Yeah, yeah. There's something that feels getting caught up in just releasing music onto the internet and then just seeing it as a number.
Yeah.
I feel like can be really depressing sometimes, and also uh, it's less. I don't know. I like I have this shit around my room of like this is just like my second tape, uh, and I'll have that forever. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have Spotify forever. I'm not gonna have you know. So releasing physical music doesn't mean a lot to me because someone else can hold it and maybe appreciate it, and maybe someone's driving a 90s 4Runner and they can put my tape in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Totally.
And it is too bad that we didn't do CDs, but at least with the tapes, yeah, they could. I just like to think that that can travel somewhere physically.
Yeah, it totally could.
So,
Yeah, there are still people out there with Walkmans and things like that
mhm.
too, right? So it has that ability for sure. So I'm assuming the best place to get copies of these tapes and the record are at shows. Like you said, you're going to be touring. Where else can people find this stuff? I mean, I'm guessing that it's available on all the streaming services as well.
Yeah, definitely shows. And then I think on my Instagram I have a link in my bio that would go to the House of Wonders store, so you can buy it there, and then you can buy it on Bandcamp, obviously.
Cool, cool. And then
Yeah.
if someone wants to find out more about what you're doing, where you're playing shows, things like that, what's the best way to sort of keep in touch with what you're up to?
Yeah, probably Instagram. I think I announced stuff on Bandcamp, but yeah, probably Instagram.
Okay, awesome. And I'll put a link to your Instagram in the show notes too, so people
Cool.
can check it out that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.